Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I have terrific concerns about this bill as being yet another overreach by us, by this body, into what is a local authority, and appropriately so. Quite a few years ago, Article 9 of the Colorado State Constitution that we're sworn to uphold was created. Article 9, which covers education, starts out very generally on the supervision of schools through the Board of Education. It says that the general supervision of public schools of the state shall be vested in a Board of Education whose powers and duties shall be, as now or hereafter prescribed by law. Said board shall consist of a member of each congressional district of the state, and so on. Said the members of the board shall serve without compensation, shall be reimbursed. Okay, the commissioner of education shall be appointed by the Board of Education and not be included in the classified service of the state. Interesting as it starts to show a release right there of the centralized control, buzzing down to the bottom of Article 9, describes in school districts these two very key items, that our duty as General Assembly shall, by law, provide for organization of school districts of convenient size, in each of which shall be established a Board of Education to consist of 3 or more directors to be elected by the qualified electors of the district, and then said director shall have control of the instruction in the public schools of their respective districts. And then the final section on textbooks says neither the General Assembly nor the State Board of Education shall have power to prescribe textbooks to be used in this public schools. Just the tenor of all this is we as the General Assembly, we establish the geographical boundaries of school districts across the state to serve the populations, and then we step away because there are local sensibilities, local cultures, local communities of interest, and so on. Local industries that are predominant in each of the areas. And it is those communities' authority to elect amongst themselves the folks who operate those school boards. Those school boards hire the superintendent hires principals, and principals hire the teachers, and that's how the hierarchy goes. That's the chain of command. But the chain of command ultimately stops with not us and not a code of ethics, an ethics board in Denver, but it ultimately stops with the people who live in the geographical boundaries of that school district. They hold that superintendent accountable, and they hold the school boards directors accountable. They are, of course, alternately elected to 4-year terms, so they can be swapped out if they're not doing the job, if the citizens are not happy. And they have school board meetings openly all the time, and as we hear constantly, they are those become very animated events. Those become very animated conversations between the citizens and the school board members, as it should be. We should not be reaching down and inserting ourselves from Denver into Woodland Park, into Chaffee County, into Leadville. That is not our role to do. That is an overreach, and I believe that it flies directly in the face of what's intended in our state constitution. I believe for us to uphold our oath of office, we need to maintain that spirit within the state constitution and leave those folks to work things out on a local level, and not believe that we have some kind of superior judgment over them operating things at a local level. So I strongly urge a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my colleagues from Woodland Park and Logan County, Sterling. And You're right. I'm going to read what the Constitution says. It says any person from South Carolina, from Colorado, from Leadville, from Woodland Park may file a written complaint with the Independent Ethics Commission asking whether a blah 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 local government official or government employee has failed to comply with this article, the article being the Ethics Commission. You do have 12 months to do it. So these people are certainly elected. We've all been elected, so we know what that's like. There's a campaign to run. There are contributors to your campaign. There's money involved. And then you take an oath of office and you decide that you're going to put yourself out there as a public official running big budgets across our state. And so you are held accountable to that same code of conduct and this ethics. So these are not volunteers. These are elected officials. They are the top employee only. We're not going to be talking about principals and directors and that type of a thing. Literally, the only employee is the first in the chain of command. And then in terms of standing, again, I just want to say that any person may file. So they don't even have to be in our ethics commission. If they get a complaint that is from another state, by law, they have to look at it to judge the merits of it. So I appreciate the conversation, and I urge an aye vote on this important bill.
Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the sponsor. Would this Ethics Commission be the same one that has been unconstitutionally picking on one of Denver's small business operators and fighting him all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, where the Civil Rights Commission loses because they are violating his constitutional rights?
Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was on the phone yesterday with the head of the IEC, and he is not in a position to speak about any of the current processes and cases that are in place. But, the Tina Peters, he was able to speak about. That already happened. There were 3 that came in. One of them he was able to speak to us about, but the other 2 we couldn't. So I'm sorry that that's not something I get to know about.
Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, that's an example of what I'm talking about. There's not some superior wisdom that comes from this building or from Denver superior to what happens in Senate District 4. So I take offense to the idea that we will have some kind of a commission that's structured here that's going to oversee the sensibilities, the ethics of rural Colorado and make judgment from afar, especially when the track record is so abysmal. Actually carrying something all the way to the Supreme Court and losing because they were trying to go for an ethics violation when in fact they're violating themselves, violating a small business operator's constitutional First Amendment rights in the first place. So the wisdom is lacking. We should not be arrogantly putting together in Colorado or in Denver a centralized power to oversee folks who do just fine on their own. Now there's some messiness for sure, but the messiness is quickly overcome through the subsequent election, and those local communities deal with their issues. They don't need to have us overriding them and telling them that, hey, we all know better than you, country bumpkins. So this is just not a good idea. It is, frankly, an un-American idea. Let's not do this.
Senator Baisley, un-American, please do not impugn the motives of any of the members in this body. If you disagree with the policy, that is one thing. Senator Baisley.
Unconstitutional is un-American. That's where my opinion stems from. Thank you.